Hello everyone, welcome to A Good Night for a Murder, a Victorian true crime podcast. This is a Good Night snack episode available exclusively for my housekeeper and butler tier patrons. One of the topics that generates the most discussion anytime I talk about it on social media is Victorian funeral customs. In particular, a lot of people relate to covering of mirrors in the house when someone dies. Many comment that this is still a thing in many communities and cultures today. The reason Victorians did this was so the soul of the deceased didn't get confused and trapped in the mirror. But this barely scratches the surface of beliefs about mirrors. That's why I've decided to dedicate tonight's Good Night Snack episode to mirror lore and superstitions. A Good Night for a Murder is a true crime podcast that does cover stories including death, violence, sexual assault, and other adult themes. Please take care while listening. Before the first man-made mirrors, people attributed plenty of meaning to viewing their reflection in bodies of water. So far as the manufacture of reflective objects, though, the earliest mirrors have been dated to 6000 BC in Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey. They used polished obsidian to make their mirrors. Obsidian is a naturally occurring volcanic glass. In Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, they were making mirrors out of polished copper around 4000 and 3000 BC. Polished stone mirrors from Central and South America also dated back to 2000 BC. Metal-coated glass mirrors are said to have been invented in the city of Sidon in Lebanon in the 1st century AD. Roman author Pliny also made mention of glass mirrors backed with gold leaf around 77 AD. Huge time jump forward to the 16th century when the Venetian glassmakers on the island of Murano started covering the back of glass with a mixture of tin and mercury. This careful process resulted in a near-perfect surface with no distortion. These early mirrors were often small, as large plates of glass were expensive to come by. Larger mirrors were often made of multiple smaller ones. It's interesting to think that although mirrors had been around for thousands of years, not one person up until this point had been able to see their own full-length reflection yet. The Venetians guarded their secret to perfect mirror making well, and for hundreds of years they had the market cornered on elaborately framed mirrors that would hang in palaces all throughout Europe. Eventually, though, the English and French stole the mercury-based technique and brought the art of mirror making to their own countries. France in particular became renowned in their own right and from 1678 to 1684 constructed the famous Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles. Now that the secret to mirror making was out, it spread all over the world and newer methods that were both cheaper and safer were developed. In the early 19th century, toxic mercury was replaced with silver nitrate. Today's mirrors use aluminum, which is lighter and, again, safer. Back to the ancient Romans and Greeks for a moment, though. Not only were they one of the earliest manufacturers of mirrors, they're also the reason why we believe breaking a mirror will get you 7 years bad luck. They believed that to gaze at one's reflection was to look into your own soul. When they learned to make their own reflective surfaces, they believed this must be their god's way of looking back at them. To break a mirror was considered such an egregious offense to the gods that the gods would in turn rain bad luck down upon anyone so careless. Hey everyone, it's Kim, and I wanted to let you know that you're listening to a preview of a Patreon-only series from A Good Night for a Murder called A Good Night Snack. This is the 5th episode in the series so far, with more to come each month, only available at the housekeeper and butler tier on Patreon. If you like the Victorian Society tips in the regular episodes, you're probably going to like these. In this series, I focus on profiling famous Victorian people, Victorian lifestyle and society rules, and more historical true crime that may not be enough to build an entire episode out of, but works for a quick Victorian true crime fix. Hence the series name, A Good Night Snack. So if you're enjoying the episode, I'm going to play a little bit more for you right now, but if you want to hear the whole thing and more like it, head over to my website at agoodnightforamurder.com, where you can find the link for my Patreon and join at the housekeeper and butler tier. Now, back to the story. Once glass mirrors became more common, breakage was unfortunately more frequent. The Romans, though, held the belief that every 7 years the soul would regenerate. As mirrors held reflection of our souls, a broken mirror meant a broken soul that would take 7 years to renew. Until then, unfortunately, one was doomed to suffer life without the favor of the gods, resulting in 7 years bad luck. There is a fix for this, however. First, if you do break a mirror, don't touch it for at least 2 hours. Then, pick up every single piece and get your shoes and coat on because we're going outside. First, stop by the graveyard and touch a piece of the broken mirror to a tombstone. That in itself is said to immediately alleviate any bad luck. Then, bury every fragment by moonlight and throw salt over your shoulder. This admittedly is a bit of an amalgamation of all the broken mirror cures I found, but themes of leaving the broken mirror for a while, then burying it, and the tombstone bit were all pretty common. Some other broken mirror superstitions are that if a mirror falls off of the wall in your house and breaks, someone is going to die. No antidote for that one was mentioned, I'm afraid. Also, to simply keep a broken mirror in your house is extremely bad luck and will attract all sorts of evil spirits. Similarly, it's generally advised against hanging a previously owned mirror in your home, and this is simply because you don't know what could be inside them. This is the reason that Victorians would cover all mirrors in the house immediately after the death of someone in the household. They believed that the person's spirit could get confused and trapped in a mirror and would therefore be unable to complete their journey to the afterlife and would instead haunt the family. Similarly, all photographs were turned face down to prevent possession by the spirit of those still living. After the funeral, once the body was no longer in the house, the mirrors and photos could be put back in order. I got many comments online about the various cultures and communities who still cover mirrors during periods of mourning, though. Notably, this is a common practice in the Jewish faith during the mourning ritual of sitting Shiva. From Wikipedia, by covering mirrors in the house, mourners redirect their focus towards reflection and introspection rather than vanity and personal appearance. One more superstition about covering mirrors is to be sure to cover all mirrors in your house during a lightning storm. I never heard of this, and it's actually more of an old wives' tale than a superstition, I think. But the belief is that during a thunder and lightning storm, make sure you cover all the mirrors in your house, otherwise the mirrors will catch the lightning and you'll get electrocuted. This scientifically is not how lightning works. It won't be attracted to mirrors any more than other objects, and it won't bounce off them and fly around your house. It's easy to see how the misconception came about, though, with mirrors being This has been a Good Night Snack episode from A Good Night for a Murder. To hear the full story and more like it, plus unlock the bonus content that accompanies each regular episode, head on over to my website at agoodnightforamurder.com and sign up for the housekeeper and butler tier on Patreon. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you again soon.